All right. Hi, everyone. I'm Ashley, and I'm a practicum student at Angelo State University, and I'm in the Counseling Center. In this video, I'll be discussing motivation and the benefits that it can have in increasing your want to study and learn. First, we'll go over intrinsic and extrinsic motivations and what they mean. Then we'll talk about the benefits that they can have for you and what tools that can be used to increase your motivation, specifically your intrinsic motivation. I do have two screens, so if I'm looking off to the side, it's because I'm just looking at the slides and then I'm coming back over and looking at the webcam. So that's what I'm doing if I'm looking off to the side. Anyways, let's keep going and go ahead and switch to the next slide. So first off, we have intrinsic and extrinsic motivation. So those are the two types of motivations that I'll be talking about in this PowerPoint. Intrinsic motivation is going to be motivation that comes from the inside. And an example of that would be I am reading my textbook because I'm really interested in learning about the course material and I want to learn about it and grow my understanding in it. Or as I put on the example on the slide, I want to do this for my personal growth. And so that motivation is coming from inside your internal drive. Whereas external motivation is motivation that's coming from outside of yourself. So that would be, I'm reading my textbook so I can get a good grade on my final exam, or I complete my assignments so that I can get a good grade. So how can they help you? Which is the big question, right? So intrinsic motivation increases autonomy and enhances developmental growth. So autonomy is what we do. So it kind of is something that drives our individuality and is something that forces is that internal force really that kind of drives us into life. And so whenever we follow our intrinsic motivation, that is growing our individuality and our self-autonomy. And intrinsic motivation also kind of motivates our developmental growth. And our developmental growth increases our intrinsic motivation. Extrinsic motivation can help, understanding that can help you know that it increases your motivation whenever you're not feeling the drive to do something. Your extrinsic motivation, extrinsic motivators can motivate you to do something. I'm sure not all of us are opening up textbooks and reading it just for fun, though I do know, and I myself have done, is just reading a textbook because it is an intrinsic subject. But having that drive to read it isn't always there. And so that our external motivators and having that exam coming up kind of helps force us to read those textbooks. Another thing to know about extrinsic motivation, how it can help you, is it unexpected and verbal rewards is something that really they're an extrinsic motivation that continues to preserve your intrinsic motivators. One thing about relying specifically and always on extrinsic motivation is that it does decrease your intrinsic motivation. In fact, studies have found that in children who are coloring, when they're given an extrinsic motivator, they actually don't want to color anymore when they're not given that extrinsic motivator. So in class and in homework and stuff, whenever you're constantly given extrinsic motivators, it can decrease your want to learn about new things. So intrinsic, again, is you're doing this for you and you're doing this for fun. But too much extrinsic motivation can be, I'm doing this for the reward. So let me go ahead and go to the next slide. So some ways to increase your intrinsic motivation or your internal motivator and driver is understanding where your flow is and understanding what how your skill level and how that compares to the homework and the assignments that you're receiving. So as you can see from our chart, the chart that I have here, if your, excuse me, if your skill is, if you're really understanding, excuse me, a subject matter and you're given an easy assignment, then you're going to be quite bored. You're going to be like, oh, well, I understand everything, but I don't have any stressors about it because I have the skill required. And you might get a little bored in having that. That would, an example that be if I gave you a sheet of paper for homework and it just contained a bunch of simple math equations. Yes, you could do it, but it's not going to be fun. You're going to be a little bored. You're going to think, oh my gosh, why is my professor giving this to me? But if you have a skill, if your skill level isn't quite there in understanding all of the subject matter and you're given a super hard assignment on it, you're going to be stressed about it. You're not going to understand the subject and you might get a little confused on what is expected of you and how to do it. You might even get stressed to the point where you might just throw in the towel and say, well, I don't understand it. I'm never going to understand it. But if you reach that middle ground where it's just your homework is just challenging enough, you can reach that flow state and be able to do your assignment and with relative ease and be interested in the homework assignments. So if you find yourself in that high stress area where you're just not understanding the work and you're just given an assignment that's super hard, some things that you could do is reach out to your professor and see if there's something you're missing and talk to them about how the class is difficult and being able to get that communication across and open that communication so that they'll be able to explain to you how that assignment is supposed to be done, or explain what you're missing in the course. Another thing you can do is open up your textbooks and read over it and use your textbook and utilize that. Or since we do live in the age of technology, you can do a quick Google search and find some YouTube videos of professors or people explaining the topics in a different way that may be able to help click that missing piece when it comes to your homework. So that's flow. And another thing that you can do to help increase that intrinsic motivation is goal striving. Now, goal striving sounds like goal setting, but you have to set your goals before you can goal strive. So goal striving is focusing on the how you will achieve a goal. So if you were to set a goal, you would set a goal like, I want to pass my class. And goal striving, you would think about how you're going to pass that class. You'll think about the studying that you'll need to do, how you'll need to do all of the assignments, and how you're going to sit down and do them, where you're going to sit down and do them. You're sitting in the library and you're studying your exam, you're putting together study groups and learning with other people. So that would be goal striving, is imagining yourself doing each of those things to reach you to that goal that you want to achieve. And through being able to imagine how you're going to do it, it focuses your attention on how you can do it. You're able to visualize what you'll need to do, and from there you can go ahead and do it. So that's goal striving. And so using goal striving and flow, you'll be able to increase your intrinsic motivation and hopefully be able to find some motivation to do all your hard classes that are coming up. So some references that I use. So if you're super interested in motivation and you want to learn more about it, a book that I used was Understanding Motivation and Understanding Motivation and Emotion by last name Reeves. It was released in 2015, and that would be a good start. And if you're still interested in it and want to learn more, you can look through the references and of the book and the textbook and maybe find some other books and do some Google searches and YouTube and talk to professors who are doing research in motivation. But that's all that I have, and I hope you find this information helpful. Thank you for watching my video, and may you all have a great semester.